So welcome everyone, and very glad you could join us today. My name is Paula Newcomb, and I'm the Northeast Regional Coordinator for today's webinar, Present Like a Pro, Tips and Tricks for a Great Presentation. My co-worker, Courtney Brown, will be the host and question moderator for today's webinar. If you have questions during the webinar, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we will try to answer them as we go along. So, after this webinar has been transcribed, it will be available on the Indiana State Library's Archive Webinars page. If you're watching an archive recording of this presentation, information on how to obtain your LEU is in the video's description in YouTube. For weekly updates on upcoming trainings and to learn more about what's happening in libraries across the state, please subscribe to the Indiana State Library's e-newsletter, The Wednesday Word, and check out our continuing education website for other professional development opportunities. And also, I'll just put a shout out. This is, if you haven't been to the State Library, this is a picture of the Great Hall. It is absolutely beautiful. And I found that on our blog, on the Indiana State Library's blog. So, beautiful place. So, just before we get started, just a reminder, and I forget myself, make sure you change, if you want to put something in the chat, change it from hosts and panelists. I know it gives you maybe some other things you can do, hosts and panelists, to everyone. So if you have everyone can see your question, and maybe someone else has that same question. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in. So this is the agenda for today. We're going to get some different topics going here. We're going to find out something you got to think about is what is your why and who is your who. I'll talk about some tips on how to prepare for doing webinars or presentations, some of the tools you need to use or to know about, maybe some tips on how to effectively present, and also hopefully at the end we'll get to the demonstration questions. I'll show you some things behind the scenes. So this is a warning. I am a reformed person with this. Courtney will remember. When I started, I know I did one presentation somewhere at a library. I kid you not, I had 80 slides. I'm like, what was I thinking? I think part of that problem was I was doing a technical presentation and showing lots of different screenshots of different web pages. You could maybe get away with that kind of a presentation. But generally, you're just going to overwhelm people. So don't do that what I did. I think now I try to get down to less than 30 slides when I'm doing a presentation for an hour. Other places will say you've got I think it's a 10, 20, 30 rule. That I think it's like 10 slides or up to for 20 minutes. Well, we have to do 31 minutes at least, but just gauge how long you have to do your presentation and how much you think your audience can take, because attention frame might be about 20 minutes or so. So it's a good idea to try to break things up. So, and also try to make your presentation as engaging as possible. So again, I am reformed. I don't do this anymore. So think about what is your why and who is your who. What is your topic? What is your core message? Get to that, to the meat, and find out what that is, and also try to make it as simple as you can. And your audience, what is their needs? Are you doing something for the children's department versus the computer department versus reference department, or are you doing everyone together? I did have one library have me do a staff day, and I did a they picked it. They had me do one on reference, and really I had the whole staff in there, and I think it was early on in when I was starting to do this, and I think most of the library staff was kind of bored because they didn't do reference. So think about who your audience is, because it may not go over so well if you're not tweaking it to the right group. And you can also ask questions ahead of time. What does the person who asked you to do the presentation, what are their goals? And maybe you can try to tweak it a little bit to fit their needs. So Yeah, I do that oftentimes. So, second thing to start with, preparation. It's very important to put things together, prepare, make notes, and everyone's different how they do this. Getting ready for this presentation, I actually wrote it out on paper. Then I typed it out on the computer. Then I put my slides together and then I filled it out. So that's just an easy way to think about it. Make sure you prepare it and try to find a logical way to do that for you, what's best for you. Equipment. People might find this overwhelming, especially if you haven't done it before. What do all these wires go with and how do you set it up? Very important. Make sure you know where you're presenting, what equipment they have, what plugins they have. Practice that setup. Do it ahead of time. Book that room if you need to. And also, technology does change often. I went to a library staff day at another library, and they were so proud of this. They had a brand new smart TV, and they wanted me to hook my computer up to it. Unfortunately, my old computer didn't have the same hookup. So it was like a specific HDMI plug-in. I had the old HDMI plug-in. They had the new plug-in. And oftentimes you can get something that will, like an adapter that will make it work, but I didn't know that. That was probably partly my fault. I should have asked, do you have something new? I just didn't think about it. And I think that also happened in another library I went to. But what I had to do, thankfully I had my portable projector with me. We have that we can bring with us. So I had to actually had them move all their tables around and their chairs around because I couldn't project on the wall that had the TV. I had to project on the other wall that didn't have a TV. So it was all good. They were fine with it. But again, make sure you know what plugs into what, and just do that ahead of time. And also think about what's your audience going to be? Are you going to do a live audience, say at a conference at the Indiana State, or the Indiana Library Federation? Are you going to go down there? Do you need a microphone? I have a small voice. I generally do need a microphone when I'm in a big room, especially. If you're doing a webinar, make sure you have all the things you need with that. On this page, the picture here, I'll show you a little bit later, but this is a good way to think about when you're doing a webinar. Right now, the computer I'm looking at is right here, and it's got my camera on it. The one next to me over here, that's actually got the presentation that you're seeing on it. And there's a way to extend your view. I'll show you hopefully at the end how to do that as well. And then you might have notes. This could be your notes, or you could have your notes on this page. I also have notes, like paper notes, I'm going to go over later as well. Other things to think about for tools, I have also a light ring that helps because it doesn't quite give the Doris Day effect, get everything perfect, but it helps. And also over here on the side, this fellow's got headphones and he's got a microphone. So just think about what do you need to make it work for you. And I'll show you later. Maybe I could show it to you now. I do have a microphone. I got this from Amazon. It's got the USB. It was about $20 when I got it, and it's got that little foam thing on it that's very helpful. Again, I don't use this very much, but headphones with your microphone on it. Can't get that to move. I'm doing it the wrong way, that's why. Also, it's a USB plug-in. So if you might want to do that. So that's some things you might think about how you do your setup. And a tech check, other things to know about and things to do ahead of time. Make sure you practice. Again, do a tech check. Make sure that your slides work and that your sound works. I've seen times where someone did something fancy with their slides and it didn't quite correspond with our presentation software. It seems like it works a lot better with Zoom, but when we were doing Adobe Connect, sometimes things would get a little muddled. So just think about that as well. This was something really cool to know about, presentation view, which I'll show you some slides, what it looks like in the slides here, but then hopefully in the end, I'll show you actually how to do it. And also the adding notes. You can do that to your presentation. So here's some behind the scenes. This is where you can put your notes. This is actually, I use Google Slides. I'll explain a little bit later why I kind of switched to that, using that primarily. But you can put the notes here at the bottom of the page. And then also when you're presenting, you can click where it says slideshow over here. I'm going to show you this on the next slide. When you click on that, you have the choice to do presenter view, or you could start from beginning. So when I do presenter view, what it will bring up is this. You can't see it real well, maybe on this flat slide, I'll show you later, but this is an extra box. That's where you can actually see your notes. You can see the time, so it shows your timing. It also shows you, this is your current slide, your previous slide, and your next slide. And you can change the size of that, so you can make it bigger or smaller, whatever works for you. So that's what I do, is open it, put presenter view. I move that window over here so I can actually see the presentation in front of me, and you don't see all the back behind the scenes things. So I kind of tell them on myself. But I think it's a really good thing to know about.
Jane is asking if the sample presentation is PowerPoint, but I believe that's Google Slides. Is that correct, Paula?
I have it all in Google Slides. And
which is very similar to PowerPoint.
Right. And I'll explain a little bit, hopefully at the end, why I switched, and maybe we can also open up PowerPoint. It's just, I started with PowerPoint and I've switched to Google Slides. I've even seen it, well, we'll talk about there's some other ones you can use as well. But really good question. Now, this is a little shout out to me. We have Canva for nonprofits. I made that picture. I couldn't find a picture that I wanted to use, so I kind of made my own. But this is a really good thing to do. You can do, to make things more interactive, you can do polls. So here's some different poll apps or software you can use. Kahoot, that's a really fun one. I used it, it's really for learning games, but I was at a conference that you could do it for a trivia night. So someone else, I'm not sure, I assume they might have had a laptop up at the front of the room, and you could, on your cell phone, you could type in the answers and it would actually show who the winner was of that round when you asked a question. So you had to be really quick to get the answer and to put it in. So we did quite a few questions, and it was a really tough group because I was with a bunch of librarians. They know a lot of things. So Mentimeter, that's another one you could use. I've used that where you can compete against each other. So you could have teams, and you can also add background music. But something I should have said also, some of these different tools, some are free, some you can use on a limited basis, some you have to subscribe to it, and some you have to pay a fee to use it fully. I don't pay for anything. I use as much as I can for free. So like with the Mentimeter, I think I was trying to get really fancy and use a whole bunch of different questions, and it looked like I could only use so many. So I had to cut it way down what I was wanting to do with my plan for my presentation. So Microsoft Forms, I use that a lot for surveys, but it also has a quiz function. Poll Everywhere is you can add that into PowerPoint. I tried to use it and in the past, and I've had problems with it. Maybe it's gotten better now, but in Google Slides, you can add an extension called Slido, and that seems to work pretty well. Other things to think about: handouts. Do you or don't you do the handouts? You get that every time. I think it's like a mixed group. Some people just want to have that handout to write notes, even though they could probably bring their own notepad, but I get it. You have a slide, you want to make a certain note on whatever the presenter was talking about. But some things to think about: maybe you could send them ahead of time and then let the people decide if they want to print it out themselves. At a conference, you might not have that choice. So your conference might say, if you have your slides, send them ahead of time. They might print them, or they might want you to print them. So, or you could send them out afterwards. So a lot of things to think about with handouts. And also group activities. So tell me in the chat, who loves to do breakout into groups? How about Zoom breakout rooms? Do you love those? Probably not, do you? But no, yeah, I know. And it actually is, I've had people do it, and it is eventually, I think they do think it's fun, really. But I know sometimes it is, maybe it's better when you have an activity to do. Sometimes if you're staring at each other and talking, it's not as fun. So just again, think about what your topic is and what you're trying to convey. Other things we've used in our presentations, we have Duplos. We have Duplo sets that we've used. Those were actually fun. I've used interactive games and team activities. I'm not going to say what they are because I've got someone I'm doing one of these libraries I'm going to go to next month and do some of these activities. So I'm not going to let it out of the bag. So there are some other things. I've got a article on the bottom here that I have this all at the end for resources of some different other polling tools that you can use to engage your audience. So a lot more things than what I've got on here. So I'm going to switch again. They're all kind of tools. We're going to go a little bit further into some specific tools to use. The presentation software. PowerPoint is generally what you get when you have Microsoft. You have PowerPoint on your computers. Again, I tried to use different things with PowerPoint. Like I would try to put a video in. I could never get a video to work in PowerPoint during a presentation. I watched one of my coworkers when they were doing an evergreen training at a library, and Ruth Fraser, she used Google Slides. And it blew my mind. I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't know we could use that and how nice it was. The thing with Google Slides, like say if I'm doing a presentation on Inspire, I could keep on track with my slides here, but I could also, I'll just show you, bring up another tab, and I could go back and forth between showing something in Inspire and going back to my slides. It was so easy. So that's another reason why I've switched. So other things you have to think about. I guess Canva also, you can do presentations. I haven't used that function yet on Canva and Prezi, and I'm sure there's more because I've got, and I've got an article here, 15 best presentation softwares to use. So you just think about what price fits your budget. Is it easy to use? Can you add audio and video fairly easily? Is it cloud-based? Is it not cloud-based? Can it be viewed offline? Can you use a brand with it? So all kinds of things to think about when trying to figure out what presentation software to use. So slide decks. You can also expand what comes with your software, presentation software. I like to use Slides Carnival and also Slides Go. They just have really cute backgrounds. So you can download them both into Google Slides and to PowerPoint, and it just gives you a little bit different feel to it. And I'll show you what I use for this one. Let me see if I can go over that and show you more behind the scenes. And it's a mess, sorry about that. This one was actually called Nude Minimal Winter Holiday Presentation, but I just like the look of it. So that's what I used for this one, and I adapted it to my needs. And then this is just to show, you can type in if you want to do something techie, or if you want to do something sciencey, a certain color. So you can do all kinds of, drill down to what's going to work for you. So Office also has templates. So I think if you're using PowerPoint, you can maybe get some other templates as well. So Also, equipment. Think about, what do you need? Where your presentation is going to be, do they have a laptop? Do you use your laptop? Do you have a laptop? Do you have the internet? Do you need to maybe bring a hotspot with you? I've had other people that were doing presentations that they say they were doing something for Rotary or the Lions Club. They went somewhere and there was not internet. How are you going to do a presentation showing Inspire or something like that if you don't have internet? You could, again, make screenshots of all your slides, but it does take a long time to do that, and you can. But think about, again, if you're going somewhere else, what does the place have? And also figure out how to use, if you need to use your smartphone as a hotspot, how do you do that? How does that work? Make sure you have a clicker here to advance the slides. That's very helpful. And think about how your room's going to be set up, because if you're not right next to your computer, how do you advance those slides? You might have to use that clicker to do that. Again, do you have your own projector? Are you going to do a smart TV? When I first started, some places weren't set up like anymore. You go to a library, libraries are now pretty much set up for, you've got something in the wall in their meeting room. You can plug in your computer, you can plug into the internet, you can plug into their projector, really easy with a few cords, and then you can do your presentation. Well, what if you have to bring a projector and you have to have your laptop connected to your own projector? I've had times where I have to stand behind my laptop and project out to the audience, and I see the audience, their backs. So again, you got to be flexible when doing these presentations. So again, do you need a microphone? Again, I do need a microphone. And also think about backing up your presentation. Make sure you could put it maybe on a thumb drive. Do you need to send it to yourself on an email? Make sure you know how to get into your email. So if you're getting to Yahoo Mail or Google Mail, that you start it, you don't forget your passwords, because sometimes when you're nervous, you're going to forget things. So just think about all these different things you might need when you're doing a presentation. Also, pictures, photos. Make sure you have royalty-free pictures. You could also look. Pexels and Pixabay are my two go-tos a lot of times to find pictures. And then I just find the pictures and drop them in. You could resize them, change them. I didn't do it on my presentation, but I do have it in my notes where I got pictures from. So just so I remind myself, if someone asks me, where'd you get that picture, I can show where I got it from. So definitely you want to make sure you have pictures that are okay to use and they don't cost. So also Canva for nonprofits, again, a great way to do that as well. I'll get you more information on that. I didn't set up our Canva at the state library. So if you want more information, I could get you that later. Also, I'll show you a video demonstration. I hope this will work. Okay. I'm going to come over here. Maybe I'll just do it in this one. I'm going to add a video. I already have my address or the link I want to use. I'm going to insert this. So you just go to insert, go to video, plug in that URL, click on it, and just hit select. And it puts it right into your slide. I am going to do slideshow and play it. So I don't know if you could hear that or not. Hopefully you could, but it's so easy. I could never do that for some reason with PowerPoint. So you could also set it up so that when you're on a screen, it'll, as soon as I probably click on it, it's going to start it again. or you could tell it to click when you get on it'll start when you're on the slide. You can change the size of it on your slide. So very, very helpful. Okay, I'm going to hit double click so I can get past that one.
Paula, we have a couple of things in the chat here. Someone asked if the slides would be shared, and I went ahead and let everybody know that that would be shared. And Jane wants to thank you for sharing this very important information. But we do have a question about that Canva for nonprofits. This particular library tried to do that, but they're not a 501c3, so they were denied. Is there a trick to getting approved?
I'll have to find out. I think our boss did that, started that, so I am not sure what else she had to go through to get that done. So definitely I'll follow up on that and see what I can find out about it.
And someone is wanting to know about public speaking presentation skills. Is that coming up?
You know, it's not coming up, and I think that was the one I was thinking about doing, but let me talk about that. Yeah, so we're going to talk about, we're hitting the home stretch here. And I think this is our last section to cover. So that's a really good question at this point. How to start? Well, even how to start. I myself, and I've said this many times, I am in the past very shy person, and I told I saw one of my English teachers from high school, and I told her what I was doing now, and she just couldn't believe it, because who I was back then in high school, I would not even put my hand up. Even a few years ago, if I was sitting in a workshop, I wouldn't talk to the person next to me, but I'd ask questions. So my story is everybody's story is different, but with me, you know, I was in the band in high school. I really should have been in the choir. I wasn't, but things that you do in your life really do add up. When I worked at Marion Public Library, I was too shy to give tours. That was back 94 to 07. When I went to my next job in Crown Point, I was head of kids. I slowly learned that I actually loved dealing and working with school age kids. And I gave tours, I did presentations. I did singing and choir. And I did solos. Again, I wouldn't think that I could do that, but everything you do adds up. There's other things you might try to think about. You could, if you want to hone your skills, you might see if you could take an acting class. That's something I've always thought I'd like to do. I just have never done it. Another thing is the speakers bureaus, or please someone put in the chat, what is that called? Toastmasters. You could join Toastmasters. That is really something that will help you hone your presentation skills, because if you're in a Toastmasters group, it's a club and everybody has the same goal. They all want to be a better speaker. So that's something else to do. So I hope that helps. Does that help? We got someone that says Toastmasters are great. Yeah. So, and when you're starting your presentation, here's some tips and tricks for that. In the beginning, start maybe with a warm-up activity. You might do a poll or a funny picture. Like in the beginning, I showed that funny picture and relayed a story for what, my gazillion slides that I used to do. So that way you kind of warm up. You will be nervous. Make sure you prepare and practice. I mean, even I was nervous this morning thinking, oh, is this going to work? Is that going to work? Am I going to, my words, are they going to come out right? I've got a nice slide at the end that's going to help ease your mind, hopefully, with all of that. Make sure you connect, show passion, and build rapport when you're doing these presentations. And just be yourself, but even try to be a little bit more animated. Make sure you smile and make eye contact. It's a little bit different here when I don't see anybody. When you are in front of an audience, even though it sounds scary, it does help. You can actually build a rapport with people. It's really a lot easier, actually. I've tried to record presentations. I get so nervous not speaking in front of anyone because I don't want to make a mistake. Here it's live. It's like, if I make a mistake, I have to keep going. With your voice, try to vary your voice and your tone, your pitch, your speed. Make sure it's interesting and hold the audience's attention. Also nonverbal. I'm not doing it a whole lot, but if you're in front of people, you probably definitely don't want to necessarily stay stuck behind a podium. I have to say probably most times I do stay stuck behind the podium because I might have to look at my, to remind myself about what I want to talk about in my slides. I think it's different, say, if you're working sales, if you're going to sell a product and you only do one presentation, you're going to have it memorized. In our, what we do, we have, I don't know, we've cut it down. Do we have 20 or more presentations we give? And it is kind of hard to remember every single one and what you're saying. So, and nonverbal, go back to nonverbal. 3/4 of your communication is nonverbal. So, what you're doing with your eyes, with your head, with your hands, with your body. A good thing to do also, don't read from your slides, because I've seen people do that. That is hard. Make sure you have like maybe a word in your notes that helps trigger you, that that, okay, if I put this word in, I know I can talk about this. Some people might need everything written out. I'm more of a person that needs just words to get me going. You might highlight that word in your notes so that it stands out. And it is okay to ad lib sometimes. Definitely don't just, people seem to really like stories, and stories that relate to what you're talking about. That brings it, that gives that rapport again. I also heard someone once say, don't do this. Don't turn around to your audience and look at your slides and talk. Try not to do that, because you can't hear as well, especially if you have a microphone right in front of you. So it doesn't really look that great. Also, accessibility. We now have the ability, a lot of times, I know that PowerPoint does it, and so does Google Slides. You can turn on live captioning when you're talking. So that's very handy. Think about your font size. You try to stay 30 fonts, a really good one. I think I do have some smaller fonts on mine. And also something I learned about was an accessibility checker. I'm going to go to the next page. Well, next 2 slides going to show it. Here's just showing some common mistakes. This is a article, Common Mistakes in PowerPoint and What Makes a Bad Presentation. So you can see one side, and these are kind of dated colors too. This side, way too much text. This side, better. You don't have too much text. Probably the type needs to be bigger, but less text is better. Also, think about color. People with problems with color blindness, they may not be able to see this one at all. It's too colorful. Also, if you have a really busy background, try to, you can use cool backgrounds, but you might have to tone them down. You could make them transparent. Just think about different ways you might try to do that. But, this side, not too colorful, not too many colors. And also, they always tell you, don't use Comic Sans. Think about what font you're using. We do have a presentation that I think I've got it linked in our slides that we did, how to make an accessible library. I think it mostly talked about signs in the library, but it might also kind of go along with this, but I've got it linked in our resources. So this is something I didn't know about till recently, was the accessibility checkers. And a lot of times, if you don't know something, just Google it, and you can generally find the answer. So I didn't know what extensions to use for Google Slides. One place recommended Grackle Slides. I went to this extension, I added it, and then you could tell it to check your presentation. I got a lot of things that I need to work on. So next time I do a presentation, I'll make sure to do that to make sure I have it set up a lot better than I do. So it gives you all kinds of recommendations on things to change. So just be more mindful about that. And I've unfortunately ran out of time to make all the fixes. And I think PowerPoint also has something like that as well. So this was the very important thing I learned. Early on, I was at a Differences U conference. Catherine Lemmer worked at the IU School of Law. I don't think she's there anymore, but she did a presentation on step up your style, presentations that will wow any audience. And this is not a direct quote, but this is just the gist of it. The audience will forgive you if you flub up. What they will remember is your great message. So make sure you have a really good message. They won't remember, oh, this thing didn't work, that thing didn't work. As long as you have a really great message. And it's stuck with me since 2015. So going down the final few slides in a nutshell, things to think about. In the beginning, make sure you get your audience's attention. Try to have that roadmap as to where you're going with your presentation. That's why you put that agenda up, what you would like to do today. In your middle, focus on your main points, maybe make 3 or 4 points or 4 or 5 points or so. And make sure you stay on topic and that you're trying to tell them, okay, first I'm doing this, next I'm doing this, finally I'm doing that. And use the visuals where appropriate, and it's not too much visual that detracts. And in the end, make sure you do recap your points. End on a strong point. Again, make sure room for questions, and also thank your audience. So try to relax, breathe, and enjoy. Because if you're not enjoying yourself, you feel like it's painful, your audience is going to feel that same pain. So just try to relax and enjoy it. So really, hopefully these are some good tips for today. I do have the resources here that is included in the presentation slides I'll send out. Sometimes like when you're using these slides, like the Slides Carnival, they might ask you to keep in your slide deck something that says that you're using their slides. So I'd have that here at the end. Also, so now we're at the end. I am going to thank you all for being here and for listening and participating. So I've got another thing. I've got a bunch of notes that I'm going to try to remember I'll just talk through them and maybe show things, demonstrate stuff. So it's up to you guys. Do you guys want me to demonstrate a few things and then ask questions, or do you want to go ahead and ask questions now?
Someone is asking if you could show that resource slide again.
Oh, yep. How about I talk about things real quick? I think I've already done a few of these. Things to think about. Make sure you have a water bottle with you, cough drops if you need it. Turn your phones off. I put a note on my doorbell, not that we have a lot of people coming to the house to hit the doorbell, but if the doorbell goes off, the dog goes off. So make sure you do that. Turn your email off. I did that. And also if you have other messaging apps like Teams, I put do not disturb. Don't wear jewelry that makes a lot of noise, like your earrings or a bracelet. People will hear that. And I actually saw a podcaster the other day. She had these huge earrings on and she had her microphone right here. And every time she moved around, that thing would clack. I'm like, oh, why didn't she know that? I thought she's done this a while. Other things, blur your background. I blurred the background through Zoom because I've got a lot of stuff back there that might take away from the presentation. I think what else? Make sure, if you're at work, make sure you have a good internet connection and also a quiet space. Try to think. Let me go ahead, go over here and show some things. See what this will do. I'm going to show you how to extend the screen. I hope it's going to work. If you hit and I'll share these tips, this paper as well. If you hit your Windows button and the letter P, it may not show up on this screen. It might show up. It shows up on my other screen. If there's a way I can move that over. Maybe I'm gonna unshare the screen. Maybe I'll share the screen. Okay. You're gonna see my messy desktop. I hope. Are you all still there?
We're here.
Oh, good. Sorry about that. Maybe this won't work. Let me think about how to do this. Oh, let me share. Okay, I'm going to start this again. I'm going to share. Okay, can you see this screen with my notes?
We can see your notes, yes.
Okay. When you extend your display, I'm going to hit the Windows button and the letter P. And you see how it comes up with the project? Do you guys see that?
We see it.
Okay, so I'll just go through all of them. The PC and screen probably makes sense that you'd only see what's on your PC. And if you have a second screen, you wouldn't see that. The second one is duplicate. You can have the same thing on both screens. What I like to do is extend. So I have my notes on this one, and then you guys saw the presentation on the other one. So I've seen it. Sometimes it is hard to grasp that if you're in a room, because your PC is this one, but you want them to see your presentation on the screen. So sometimes that gets a little weird, and trying to use your mouse if you're going to try to do something on the screen is hard. Or you could also do not your laptop, but just do your second screen. So I hope that helps. The Windows and the letter P does that. Oh, other things you might think about. This won't make a whole lot of sense. I have a green screen, and you can't see it because it's, oh well. I have a portable green screen. I don't use it a whole lot, but sometimes you might need it to, if you have to black out or block out your background or change it to something else. Sometimes when you use another kind of image behind you, it's a little fuzzy around you. The green screen will help really well block that all out and make it look better. So let's see what else. Let me go ahead and bring up, let me move this over. And move these things over. So this is Google Slides. So you can import slides. You can make copies of your slides. You can share them. That's a good thing to know. You can share a slide deck, so you could, more than one person can work on it. So I've done that with Courtney and other coworkers, that I do it and then I share it so they could use it as well. It shows your different version histories. Okay, and this is something very important. I think maybe I should do that in my presentation that I'm doing now. Well, no, I don't think it matters. I found in using PowerPoint, I can't get my slides to copy as handouts very easily anymore. It does only so much and then it stops. Now, I'm not sure if it's because I don't have enough memory on my laptop or what the problem is. So it's a little easier on Google Slides. So if I want my handouts, I go down to File, and this doesn't make any sense where you're going, because again, I had to Google it. File, page setup. No, that's wrong. Sorry, block that. No. Print preview. Sorry about that. So this is where you can go to, you can do slides with notes, without notes. If you want to do handout with so many slides per page, you can hide the background. You can do all kinds of different things. And you can also download it as a PDF, which is what I'll probably do for you guys. I'll download as a PDF, save it. You could also print it. People might need printed notes when they're given a presentation. That's how you do that on Google Slides. I will go ahead, after I go through this a little bit with Google Slides, I'll open up PowerPoint too. So I'm going to close that. And also something else about technology. even though it looks like this today, Google might decide they're gonna do a whole rehaul on it. So it may not look like this again, but hopefully it will stay this way for a while. Edit, you can copy paste things, duplicate. You can change the view. Insert, that's where you can insert an image, text box, audio, video, different shapes, tables and charts. Format, I go to that a lot. It won't do anything until I actually click on something. You can change the text size, the way it looks, the indentions, the spacing, format options. That's, I find really helpful, that you can like click on a picture and go to format. If you want to drop shadow on something, if that helps, a reflection, it lets you do a few things. You can change your slides so easily. You can move things around so easily when you're doing this. It also, if you click on something, you can tell it to the order. Like if you want to bring something on the front, send it to the back, send it backwards. So if you're layering things, again, spelling, that type of things. Extensions, that's where I added the accessibility checker, also Grackle. I did Slido and word cloud generator. So also here you've got your options. Also here you can add links, add comments. You can change size things so easily. So I can do that and add all my notes. This thing I think you can't move as easily. Okay, so right now I can't see anything in chat. Anybody have any questions about Google Slides before I move on to PowerPoint?
No questions right now. If you have a question for Paula, go ahead and put that in the chat, but I don't see anything we haven't already touched on.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and bring up, there's my slides. So this is where my notes were. So again, telling on myself, there's my other notes as well. Sorry for this very messy background. Oh, I did have some other things to show you. I got to remember to do that. So I think this is where, let's see. So, and things could have changed on here since I've not used it as much. So you can add different things in. Again, for some reason, I'm never able to get the video to work. But if you're doing the handouts, you go under File, you go down to Export, Create Handouts, click on that again, and then it gives you these options. You could do notes next to slides, blank lines, notes below. So probably notes below would be if you're using it for yourself. So say we want the blank lines next to slides. So we click on that, click OK. What it does is going to put it into Word. Now watch it work this time. So it might take a few minutes to get it to work. Well, it looks like it might be working today. So I think you get the gist of that. It makes it really handy that you could put together slides. I think I can't do anything because it's working. Usually it makes it handy to be able to make handouts for people. It did work this time. So there are my handouts. Think about, say on this one, I wanted this hidden at the bottom. I had to go to taskbar, and actually it hid it on my second screen. So if you wanted to have it so people don't see everything that you have on your screen, you could go down here to the multiple displays. This is where I told it to take the taskbar off of the other screen, so you didn't have all that extra stuff you didn't really need to see. Another thing you can do, just to make it a little bit cleaner, I have tons of, maybe I'll just bring up a new one, but this is an example. I've got all these folders up here. You can tell it to show or to not show your bookmarks bar. So if you, but you can't see it because it did it on my other screen. It'll take it away so you don't see that. So I think that's a lot that I got to show you. Anybody have any other things, any other questions?
Paula, do you want to show in PowerPoint the presenter view in that? Because it is a little bit different than Google Slides.
Thank you. It's been a while since I've done it. Present in Teams, that's new. Have you done it recently?
I have not presented in Teams at all, but if you go to slideshow there at the top, and then use presenter view is checked there, if you could see that at the top. And then you should, yep, from the beginning.
Oh, you can't see what I'm seeing because.
Can you pull that? Oh. Could you pull the presenter view into the screen you're sharing?
Let me see if it'll let me do that. I don't think it will. So what is going on? Probably if I, what I've done is when you're presenting, it wants you to show this screen or that screen. So if I undo it, it stops sharing, if that makes sense.
You might be able to go at the top to display settings, and what I think it's like switch on the presenter view. Oh, Evan says, my problem always seems to be that because I don't have two screens, I can't present without everyone seeing my notes. Yes.
So how can I do this? Can you share both screens? Here, let me stop everything. Hold on. I got an idea. I think. No, I don't.
You might be able to just turn off that other screen.
Here. And I apologize if I hope I don't X out of Zoom. Okay, let's try this. One more thing. Okay. Did it do it or not? From the beginning. No, it didn't. It still moved it over.
We see it now. We see the presenter view.
Okay. So what you guys are seeing is the behind the scenes on this one, and I've extended it. That's the reason why you're not seeing it, because I've got it extended. Yeah, is that what you're trying to tell me and I wasn't listening?
Oh no, we can see it now. We can see the presenter view on our screen here.
Well, yeah, so presenter screen's here, and then over here is my presentation. So, and it does let you do other things that, let's see, swap presenter view and slideshow, duplicate slideshow. Oh, down here, tools you can use to use a pen and a laser pointer. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yes, we can see that.
Oh, okay. You can change the color, you can highlight things. Not working too well on blue. What does that do? Oh, you can change that. Black or unblack the slideshow. Oh, so if you, if you need to close that for whatever reason sometimes that's a good tool. If you need to get people's attention, you can do that. And then they'll focus on what you're saying instead of what's on the screen. I don't use it, but toggle subtitles. I don't know, haven't used that. And it's got other things. So there's all kinds of different things. Again, the way you're going to learn, oh, I turned on the closed captioning, so you can see that working. So play with it. That's what you got to do. And any time to learn how to do something, you just got to dig in there and start. You're going to make mistakes. It's just part of it.
Someone is asking, so if we are in presenter view, others won't see our notes? Question mark.
Well, again, that's as long as, like the other fellow said, that if you only have your laptop, no, well, if you have your laptop and you're hooked up to another screen, that's where that hitting the Windows and the P to do your extend. Do you think that would work for you, the one who asked that question or said that?
Yeah, so if you're connecting into like a big screen in front of a group and do presenter view, you'll see on the screen what Paula has up here. And then the group that's watching the big screen on the wall will see just your PowerPoint slides.
Not sure why that thing came up. So again, the Windows and the letter P.
Right. The understanding that it only works with two screens. Yes, it is using the screen in front of the group that you're presenting to is one of the screens.
So if you're doing a webinar, that would be hard if you don't have your screen. You just might have to print your notes.
Right. Yeah. If you're doing like a webinar and you do presenter view, then your group will be able to see that.
I think, is that about it? Or does anybody else have questions? Because we could probably, maybe I can't get the chat. Do you want to put the link in for the LEU?
Yes, I can do that. And if you have any other questions for Paula, just pop them in there and I'll get them to her. I think we have everything answered right now.
And if we did this with, say, Courtney presented this, she'd have another slant on it, or if George or Laura, or, everybody's going to have their own ways of doing things. So you just have to find out what works for you. If you need to put a post-it on your computer, like, how do I extend my screen? I forgot, because you will be nervous. You'll forget. Your brain will forget things. Oh, one other thing too. Also, if you're presenting in front of people and you tend to get nervous and hot, you might dress in light clothes or layer. That's another practical tip, because you will get hot. Because your nerves will be going if you're not a natural born, person who likes to talk in front of people.
And I did pop that link into the chat. If you need a LEU, go ahead and fill out that form. We do have another question here. For printing slides on PowerPoint, I've been able to go to File, Print, then can choose the number of slides printing on each page, and it gives lines next to the slides.
Even though I'm not sharing, I'm going to do that right now. So let's go to File, Print. Oh, yep, that's another way to do it. Yep. Thank you. I see, we're always learning something new. Thank you for that. That's a lot easier. Maybe I'll try that instead. Well, at this point, I think we'll probably go ahead and stop the recording. Oh, before we stop the recording though, if you're watching this as a archive webinar, again, information on how to get your LEUs will be in YouTube's description.